So I'm here with Ray. Ray, can you introduce yourself and tell me a little bit about yourself?
Sure. My name is Ray Skaug, and I'm one of the founders of BizProValue. BizProValue is an online portal platform that allows business brokers to share the performance of a company and understand what that company is worth, to help the seller understand what the value of their small business is, and to be able to communicate that to a prospective buyer. What is the value of this small business? So we have a system, a portal, software that's available on a subscription basis that empowers business brokers to tell that story efficiently and to develop that story very quickly.
Right. Business valuation is critical in this industry. Can you explain what it is and why it's so important?
Fundamentally, it's important to the seller. In a small business, that seller's personal worth is likely to be tied up in this business that they have created. They may have invested in outside companies, but a business owner is primarily investing in the development of their own company. It creates value and it potentially has value to other people, meaning it can be sold. Valuation is very important to a seller because it has created value and that seller needs to know that information. To a buyer, it's important because the buyer wants to buy a company that will give him or her a great return on investment. If I buy this company for $1 million, how much am I going to earn on that investment of $1 million every year? How can I make it grow? And so on. And so the buyer is looking at potential opportunities and say, I think this one has the best value from either its historical performance or even its growth potential. So to a buyer, valuation is important to help that buyer decide good opportunities from not so good opportunities. Lenders need to know valuation. Now a buyer may come and say, I want to borrow $900,000 to buy this business that is being sold for $1 million. So the bank will say, we understand the performance of the company and the loan that we make is in relationship to the price that you pay. And so if the bank thinks that the price of this business is too high, the bank says, then we can't loan that much money for you.
Yeah.
We may only loan $700,000 or $600,000. Buyer, his judgment will be informed by what the lender would do, but the lender is not going to convey that value until the very end of the process. And so everybody goes through this process, agrees to pay, then the bank says, well, we're not so certain that it's worth $1 million. And the deal falls apart. Time kills deals, and nobody likes to spend that much time thinking that we have a deal only to find out that the bank was putting up 85 to 90% of the capital to buy this business, thinks differently. And since most small businesses are being bought by a buyer who's also borrowing money, what the bank says is important. So if we don't have a good understanding of value from either a seller or a buyer, and if it doesn't match what the lender is going to come to, that deal can fall apart and everybody gets frustrated.
So business buyers, brokers, and banks, they all analyze the numbers when they are going through the deal process. What are the most important numbers with the business's value?
So let's think about revenue. How does this company generate revenue? Who are the customers? Is there a single customer that's the company is highly reliant on? Or is there a wide range of customers?
I see.
How long have those customers been your customer? And many times, is there recurring income? Is it always one-off income? How stable and steady it is? How does that revenue generation compare over time? How does it compare to the industry? So that revenue number is a big number and it's important. A cost of goods sold is a big number. Right. Tell me about your vendors and your suppliers and the relationship that you have with them. That's an important number. And now what we're getting at is we're understanding what are the activities or resources that allow this company to create this financial result. The results are good, but what I really need to know is, how did you do that? Because a buyer says, I can start my own company or I can buy an existing company. And when that buyer finds out that this existing company has a well-oiled machine from generating revenue, from adding value and operating efficiently and having the right tools and equipment, a buyer may likely say, I'm happy to pay you for that rather than going through the school of hard knocks and doing that myself.
Okay.
So those big numbers, which capture our attention, which then begs an answer that we can learn about, is critical to understanding value.
Okay. So I think you just described both quantitative and qualitative data. Can you show how your software shows that on your valuation?
We'll call it these blue modules, and we'll show that up on the screen here. But here's my income statement and my balance sheet. We gathered this quantitative information by importing from tax returns, directly from their QuickBooks on a permissioned, accessible basis. And once we have that information, then we can understand immediately what is the performance of this company over time. Has it been getting better? Is it been getting worse? How does it compare to the industry? We can see that information graphically, and we can see this performance of the company. And that starts giving us a sense of, is this company performing better over time, better than its peer? If such, maybe this business is working smarter, making more profit on the same level of activity compared to its peer in the industry. This business might generate a more stable return and sell at a premium. There's a number of things that ratio analysis does for us, but it's immediate because all of the modules are integrated to provide us these financial results. We can understand the qualitative description of these activities by understanding, how does this company generate revenue? How does it have vendors and manage costs of goods sold? What do the officers do? What does personnel do? How do they advertise? All of the activities, from financial statements, the income statement, and the balance sheet, we can start understanding about the company. And when we have that information, it starts making the quantitative information make sense. Now I don't just see a number, but I see the activities that created that number. And I can distill that information in a number of different ways, for a little bit more complex seller questionnaire, to a summary, to a deal summary. I can even understand what has it done in the past and what opportunities might be presented in the future. So the quantitative and the qualitative information all help us understand what's the value of this business.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
One more for you.
Okay.
If a seller wants to increase the value of their business, what can they do?
If a seller wants to increase the value of the business, they can work harder or work smarter. Work harder might mean go get more revenue and cut your expenses. Right. Smarter might mean I can reduce the risk associated with these numbers. Part of that reducing the risk is transparency. So let's think. Valuation is based on this historical performance, and how likely is it that this historical performance is going to happen in the future.
Yeah.
And between the history and the future is something that we call risk. How certain am I that this is going to happen again? One of the best things a seller can do is make sure their financial information is good and clean and void of activities that are not part of its core activities.
Okay.
So that means that some of the expenses that were fair and legitimately recognized to reduce taxable income, clarify those to be able to say that expense was not related directly with the business. It was discretionary. So have a clean set of books, clearly be able to identify those discretionary expenses. That provides clarity, that increases confidence, it decreases risk, and now this dollar that I may earn in the future is worth more because there's less risk associated with that, because the seller has provided clean financials and clearly identified the core activities of the business. He can't change the past, but he can clarify what this past was, and so that a buyer has more confidence in this and typically increases the value of the business.
Ray, thank you so much.
That's a lot of fun. Thanks, Elijah.